It does not directly, like it's, the extent to which we still will allow employees to exercise remote work options, the work schedule would be independent of that. So it's just us at the moment, no lead yet.
How many people are working remotely? Do you know?
Very few. I mean, on a recurring basis, only a couple people for any lengthy stretch of time were exercising it. Like for a few months, there was on Fridays we're working remotely. And we've given department heads sort of the latitude to be able to say this does or doesn't work for our like in social work, for instance. I mean, people gotta be able to physically meet with people. You can't just I mean, during the pandemic, when there was a need to kind of deviate from that, that's one thing, but as a normal means of business, it doesn't work so well. And as far as the 4-day thing, like I said, I mean, we had visions of more expansive use of it that would involve staggered work schedules for facilities that are open 6 and 7 days a week. And we still may, if but this seemed like the one to trial to begin with. It was I won't say simplest and easiest, but it lent itself better to the first step of the experiment.
You know, one thing I don't have a good sense, I know why people go to see the clerk, marriage license to.
Yeah, some things you have to physically.
But what are the other reasons people come into town hall?
Like other types of business they do. I mean, a lot of people go
pay their taxes.
Yeah, some people, like if they have a conversation with the revenue collector or the assessor about that, they just feel better about coming in here. And so there's a lot of that. I mean, usually, I hate to say this, we will see them once they have a bad experience in their mind and they want to complain about something. I'm already in the building. I'm gonna go to the town manager's office and give them a piece of my mind. But to be honest, I think there's less and less compelling need to be physically present to do the work. But again, just to make it clear, we're not proposing doing away with that. I think recognize that you're in local government, taxpayer funded position. People want to be able to show up at your office and find you. There's Lee. Hey Lee, can you hear us okay?
You can see your eyebrows.
Yeah, we can see the top of your head. Lee, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great.
How's everybody this evening?
So far, so good. We're waiting for our 2 other members. I was going to ask you if you would to just give a very brief rundown of where we're at in terms of our staff recruitments, where we've got searches open, how what are the searches, so that the committee has a sense of that.
Okay, I wish I had known that. I would have put it together for you.
Oh, well,
Actually, Kelsey probably has a better handle on it than I do. But basically, we have been recruiting for a number of positions, and one of them that we were looking at potentially hiring for was the Director of Human Services.
Yeah, we mentioned that.
But the candidates ended up, one of them that seemed viable backed out, accepted a different offer from another town. But yeah, I can highlight some of it.
Yeah, that's just briefly. We'll get started when people arrive.
I see some people walking.
Yes, good. Hello.
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 Hey. Okay.
Terry, you've met Lee.
No, not in the real world, but virtually. Hi, Lee. You turned around.
Hi.
Did you get your hair done? No.
Oh my God, it looks really good. It looks like you got like a blowout or something.
Yeah.
Oh, is it your natural hair? Impressed. Thank you.
This was in response to the Peter Kotchenberger's concerns last time, but I'm just doing this to open the discussion and have people think about it between now and the next meeting.
That long ago, huh?
Yeah.
Anybody heard from Peter?
No, I've actually been thinking about
Yeah.
emailing him, see how he's doing.
I
end of
got
the
some
semester.
kind of a response to something I sent out. And I sent back a text, how's Louisiana, and I never got a response.
I thought he might be back in town for Thanksgiving, but I have not heard from Brian.
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, other than that he was gonna be, T&M.
Oh, he's been in California.
Oh,
Yeah, if he was participating, it would be virtual. But
Okay.
this might be.
Who is T&M?
we'll find out. Or we
Might
will.
be on somebody else's computer.
Hello, we see a T&M. Brian, is that maybe you or?
We can't hear you.
Are the minutes from the last meeting and the agenda floating around? I can pull them up on my computer. Not
If whoever just logged on could say who you are, because we don't have an image.
or chat, put
Or-
who you
or-
are in
or
the chat.
Put in the chat.
Yeah, I'm also texting Paulina. It might be her.
Oh, okay.
But who?
Paulina is the new HR specialist.
Ooh.
And so she's gonna sit in.
Oh. Well, why don't we begin and
I am here.
But who are you?
But who are you?
Who is I am?
I'm here.
Let's give this Brian.
Oh, it is Paulina.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, I will call the meeting of the Personnel Committee of November 28th, 2022 to order. We have a very short agenda, which is why we're meeting at 6:30, but there are some things to think about. And joining us, in addition to myself and Councilwoman Berthelot, Lee Palmer, Mayor Moran, Brian Ellsworth, Kelsey Haddad, and
Paulina
Paulina
Martinez.
Martinez.
Welcome. Is there any member of the public who's indicated a comment? No. So the first item on the agenda will be the approval of the minutes of our September 27th and October 3rd meetings. You want to take a moment to look at it and then a motion?
So moved.
Second. Comments? All in favor? Minutes are approved. The item of new business that we need to do is the meeting schedule for 2023. And these are all in coordination with the council meetings of the respective evenings. These are the second of the council meetings each month. In one case, or two cases, it's moved to Tuesday. I'm sure we won't have that December 26th meeting.
Really?
Lee Palmer will be joining us when he can virtually for these meetings, since he's on site, not on Monday. Correct. Okay.
Correct.
Lee, just so everybody knows, Lee is working 4 days a week, remotely Mondays and Thursdays. He's got a bit of a commute. He comes from is it Middlebury, just west of Waterbury?
Correct.
And so he's in the office Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Or Tuesday and Wednesday. Yeah.
So is it in order for us to have a motion to approve this meeting schedule for the 2023 year?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Okay. The other business item is just to get people thinking a bit. As you may remember, we put together a charge to the Personnel Committee and also a recommended change in the name, Personnel and Procedures, to reflect the fact that we've been asked to look at some procedural matters. The council was concerned that it was overly prescriptive and asked that we take another stab at it. What you have in front of you is my editing of it, but I'm no way wedded to this. And so I'll just ask you between now and our next meeting to take a look and see if you have any better ideas, and we can make that be something that we discuss at the next meeting as our charge, which we will then present to the council. If you have any questions or thoughts about that now, we can discuss that. As noted, this committee, like all committees, is advisory to the council, has no final authority on any matter, is in some ways a sounding board for the town manager on matters related to personnel and human resources, and is open to all members of the council, as is the case with all committees.
Why did you remove all consideration of collective bargaining agreements?
It was
in the past, I know that we have had opportunities when there was something that was a work-related issue, not a monetary issue.
yeah.
On occasion, the town manager has used us for a trial balloon, you know.
That would then be fine. I was thinking of it in terms of monetary aspects. But if you think other than monetary aspects, for example, working remotely as part of a collective bargaining agreement.
Right,
or
or hours of work,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
The language, maybe, and we don't necessarily have to, but to get to the mayor's point, if you'd like some reference to, like right now, review and advise the town council on, it's a bit different than, like you said, if the town manager wanted to
right,
initiate to use, as you say, trial
Right.
balloon. So, I mean, it could be probably reworded to make it clear that there's some role that could be played with collective bargaining agreements. It's
Right.
not super prescriptive, because this, I think maybe the issue here was that, because obviously it's not the personnel committee that goes in like the bargaining table.
no, and if it's the dollars you're talking about, it
Right.
should be finance committee.
Yeah.
The practice has become that it's been going right to town council. That's how it's been going for the last couple of years. I don't know which is better or worse, but it hasn't stopped here.
I mean, it could also,
It would never have stopped here.
No, but it's never
Yeah.
come here first.
Well, I'm wondering if it's
Never paused here.
Yeah. I'm wondering if there was a way of serving as a sounding board to the town manager on.
what about like labor issues or something? So it's not about specifically the CBA, but
Right.
like labor, because we have quarterly labor management meetings. We talk about non-monetary stuff. So I think there's a role that personnel could be, used for as the need arises.
Non-monetary.
Right, but if it's more just sort of broadly related to labor and labor management kind of question. Oh, Lee, you have a suggestion?
Well, yeah, I think that would be kind of my sentiment. I think you have to kind of be careful with regard to negotiating matters because it's of the confidentiality of that. And so I think that, the labor management piece is maybe a good vehicle for getting input. Things that are kind of outside of the collective bargaining process, which is, again, viewed as confidential.
So what about something along the lines of, serve as a resource to the town manager on
Labor
management issues
That would,
As needed.
as needed?
Right.
I'll tell you the other thing we did is we helped when we hired Ken Weinstock the first time, personnel did some of I gotta get my memory straight. Matt did the hiring, of course, but we had some kind of a say. I can't remember whether we actually did.
We had that's historically where most of our work has been in the years that I've been on it, has been we have been the ones who sort of come up with a process and for a number of things, including the town, of course, the town manager hires, but also for the firm that we reviewed all the proposals for the firm that acted to hire the town manager to do all the so it's almost like we have a role where it's sort of at the pleasure of the mayor. We had assigned things. It's pretty much what happens. And that but yeah, so things like that.
Well, that would be the contractual services. I give as an example the town attorney, but it would be other. It's on the second page. Recruitment of professional assistants.
Professional services, like town attorney.
Improvement of professional services.
I mean, there are an awful lot of things that get done like that, obviously at the staff level. There have been particularly things that have to do with the town manager. I think they all have had to do with the town manager.
Well, our only two employees are the town manager and the town attorney.
Did we? So the consulting firms were the others. So that's what we picked consulting. Well, we made the recommendation. We did all the review of all the files. And made the recommendation.
The council actually constituted you as a subset of the search committee, which was a different.
Oh, we weren't even acting as the personnel committee.
No,
so,
we were acting as the subcommittee of the search committee.
When we hired somebody to oversee the evaluation of the town manager back a year ago,
you weren't acting as the personnel committee.
Yeah, that's all of those things are professional services, right? That you've referenced.
They're professional services regarding professions who are the employees directly of the town council.
Right.
As opposed to town employees.
Right. Yeah, because you would have a separate purchasing process for that.
I mean, it's sort of funny to have something like advise the town council on matters pertaining to town manager recommendations, because the town manager is at the meeting. He's going to make his own. Like, what is our role there?
For example, Brian has ideas about changing the schedule of the town building and wishes to discuss that with us to get our feedback on it.
So getting the feedback, but then wouldn't it be more appropriate for him, since it's his idea and he's going to be most able to speak to it when we go in front of the town council? He'll talk about it. We won't act as a mediator there.
No, but at the appointed time, you could say this is the best idea we've ever heard.
Well, no, I mean,
but you could say at this initial meeting, that's crazy, and we're going to argue against it when you bring it to the town council.
Right. So. But that's a different. But here it says that we'll actually.
Well, my thought is that we can, although we made tonight at 6:30, so we're not much on, but we have the opportunity for a more loose and informal discussion than would be the case if we presented this to the full town council. And this is something that would be useful to the town manager. He would finally make the final decision. Nevertheless, it would be an opportunity to have a discussion rather than something when we get to 10:30 at night.
I agree with all that, but I'm the issue with the advice to town council, because we may act as a sounding board here, Ryan, but then we're not going to go to the town council and say, unless we've had a motion to do so, or if we really want to take on this role to say, we recommend to the town council that they adopt whatever Ryan is proposing.
So generally change these to advise the town manager rather than advise the council.
I would, your job is to advise the council.
Yeah.
But because you're a council committee, but you might want to even throw something in, advise the town manager as requested on personnel issues.
I don't think we advise the town manager though. I mean, he's
No,
a professional.
I would.
Right, the different, right.
I'm not,
There can be communicate, right, I think I understand the point Terry's making, that advise might not be the right word, because it
No.
suggests like.
Consult with.
Right, or it's like.
Sounding board. is what
Provide,
I'm
it's
thinking.
like you're providing feedback, I just say like, it's like at my initiation, but it's kind of like, if I want to use the personnel committee.
Right.
Is that sounding
To
board?
test out an idea before it goes to the council.
Of course, you can consult with anybody you want, but
Right.
this is,
and not everything's going to go to the council either. I mean, that,
Yeah.
so,
Right,
but. Yeah, I don't like advise.
Okay.
How about serve as a resource to the town manager as needed, or
Maybe available to the town manager.
that's too, I'd rather have consult with the town manager as needed, as desired.
so it makes sense,
Yeah.
Ron, for maybe you and Lee could coordinate some time.
Okay.
To kind of do some
And then,
backing and forth.
then
maybe,
I'll,
yeah.
send it out and
For
get some
for
thought.
feedback.
And then
Sure.
we can discuss it at our next meeting and then have it go if we all agree to the council.
Great.
With that, I was going to ask Lee if he could just, again, this is in the matter of just keeping us up to date on things that relate to personnel matters in the town. Not that we have any final authority, but we have some searches ongoing and some other matters that it would be good for us to just be informed about. And so if you wanted to just give us a very brief overview of where we're at in some of them.
Sure. With regard to recruitment, we've been very busy. Some of it has been strategizing about, vacancies such as the finance director, the HR director. And so, Ryan and I have obviously been in communication on those. We also had put out an advertisement for the Director of Human Services. And that position, we did get some response to it. We had one viable candidate. She accepted another offer with another municipality. And so, we are potentially going out again on that position. We've had a lot of vacancies within the administrative assistant rank, and we've filled a couple of those positions, one within building and housing, another one within recreation. And we're also currently posting for 2 planning positions. We have an environmental planner position and a senior planner level position that we're recruiting for and have posted for. And Paulina, who is our newest addition, our new HR specialist, has been intimately involved with the recruitments and has been doing a very good job. When I started on board, we had approximately 25 vacancies that we were recruiting for, and we have been able to close the gap on several of those, and we're continuing to do so. So, been very busy on the recruitment front, busy on the negotiations front, busy on reviewing all of our personnel practices, HR practices, and trying to update a lot of the information which is significantly out of date, if you will. So those are some of the projects that we're involved with, and I don't want to bore you with all the gory details, but we have been very busy. And I don't know, Kelsey's here. I don't know if she'd like to add anything to that. We have open enrollment coming up for our healthcare benefits. And so And that's a project. We are also involved, and Audrey's very involved with kind of functioning between HR and finance in terms of the audit, and has been getting a lot of information together for Sherry for the audit and the auditors. So we have a lot of irons in the fire, if you will.
The senior positions that are now occupied by people on an interim basis include human resources, human services, and finance.
Human services, Pat's still.
Pat is still here, correct.
So Sherry Trahan, former finance director, came back, and then Lee.
Right.
And okay.
And actually, just one thing, Lisa, I want to clarify. So Jen Kaufman, her position, which the job description has been updated to reflect the responsibilities of the positions, which every position always evolves over time. She's been in that job for quite a while. So just to be clear, we're not going to be hiring 2 full-time people. What we decided to do is, recognizing that it may be a shot in the dark, that we'll get lucky to be able to hire a Jen Kaufman 2.0 that is a certified planner, also environmental and wetlands specialist. We wanted to cast basically 2 nets at once. We need to fill the inland wetlands piece. We need an environmental planner. So that's the function we need to fill. The thought was that depending on if the one theory proved true, we couldn't find the reincarnation of Jen to serve as the senior planner. If we backfill the one, we might be able to find the right person that with additional training and certifications could grow into that role. But we're not filling 2 vacancies or 1 vacancy with 2 people. So we're either going to fill it at that higher level or that lower level.
Is this the time to think about sharing the planning department with a neighboring town?
Well, I mean, we could. I think that's certainly there's a lot to ponder there. I think that the demands, the volume of the work that our town is experiencing and will likely be experiencing with all of the proposals out there. I'm all for having those discussions to realize if economies of scale and efficiencies, and I'm not even closing the door on that for planning and development. But I think that of all the different functions right now, and also realizing that the tone, the culture of planning and development office is so local. So, our approach, we try to customize to reflect our values and not to throw cold water on Coventry or Tolland or anybody else and say they do it wrong, but they're going to have their approach and the types of development they want to see. And there could be some intractable differences there.
Well, I also think that Mansfield is kind of unique in the fact that we do have shared services, which is something that a lot of the vast majority of towns in Connecticut don't have. So I think that's something when I came here that's kind of unique with regard to the Mansfield School District and the town having shared services. And there's also shared services to a certain extent with Region 19. So I think we're, in my mind, ahead of the curve in a lot of respects.
In some ways, just to say that topic has legs, things like building inspection, building and housing. I mean, where there's a code that the entire state adopts.
Right.
Not interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, again, there would be local differences in application, but really there shouldn't be a ton of variation. One town should be pretty much the same as the next.
Right.
So I would say that sort of service or professional area, might be something to look at.
Well, model in Eastern Islands, I mean,
Right, the health district.
We have things that we do in common with.
Right.
Yeah.
And the COGS are looking at that, right?
Okay. Do you want to just mention your
Well,
proposal?
sure. Yeah. So it's all, it's in the council report, and then I sent a follow-up email to Ron and Tony with the with the draft document attached. So basically, on or around the first of the year, so after the new year, we've been at this at a staff level, kind of kicking around ideas for a while, and it's one of the things that Lee picked up the ball and really ran with once he got here. The concept had started with Holly, but really made demonstrable progress over the last couple of months, and that is looking at alternative work schedules and a 4-day work week for select town departments and facilities. So what I mean by that is with department head feedback, we were originally thinking about piloting this compressed schedule on a much wider swath of our municipal operation. And of course, for facilities like the library, like the community center that are open more than 5 days a week, that would mean staggering, the work schedules of different people, i.e. one person might be Monday through Thursday, somebody else might be Tuesday through Friday, et cetera, to make sure you have all the necessary coverage. It's not that we think that that's impossible to do for certain facilities outside town hall, but basically the feedback we received from department heads, who everybody was enthusiastic about the idea. They were happy. We were looking at this, appreciate the fact that Lee and I gave them a draft policy and a memorandum to kind of look over. But ultimately, I think, if the goal is to give this its best shot of being successful, let's walk before we run, even though this is just a trial. But it's a 6-month period, but we're looking to do the 4-day work schedule in town hall and town hall only. Announce to the public we're doing this, communicate what's going on, why we're doing it. We actually believe or hope, working hypothesis is that it's not just going to be a situation where, well, in the interest of recruiting and retaining a workforce, quality workforce, using this as an incentive at the expense of quality service. We actually think that adding hours, particularly Monday through Wednesday right now, because we already have Thursday being a longer day, since we see anecdotally very few people utilize Fridays. It's kind of a ghost town around here, even though we're a half day. That by extending the day Monday through Wednesday.
What hours that will be like?
Well, right now we're proposing additional hour open. So right now doesn't mean you couldn't theoretically catch somebody, but right now our published hours Monday through Wednesday is 8:15 to 4:30. So going up to 8:15 to 5:30. And but everybody who works here would be on a 4-day work schedule, which means they have a 3-day weekend. So again, that work-life balance, this is something that we see a lot of, well, not just organizations, but a lot of municipal organizations are doing more and more. It's very common. It's interesting. This is a very common thing in Massachusetts. It's less common right now in Connecticut, although Vernon and Ellington just went to it in the last 6 months. And, we hear some, admittedly anecdotally, when you talk to candidates for jobs, that this is something that they're looking for. And we might lose a high quality applicant over a 5-day versus a 4-day format. So the idea is announce it to the public, make sure people know that this is essentially a grand experiment. And then hopefully by putting the public kind of on notice of that at the end of this period, not only do we talk to employees and department heads and get their sense of how well it's worked, but we put out a survey or other means of resident feedback to see, has this worked?
Have you run this past the negotiating teams at all?
Right. So that's basically where we're at now, is that, so we have this internal working draft of the policy explaining how it would work. And then the draft MOUs that, because right now it only applies to our professional and technical,
right,
CSEA professional and technical union employees.
It's in town hall.
Right.
There are others outside.
Right, to a subset of those employees, but doesn't apply to firefighters. It doesn't apply to DPW workers.
Librarians.
Right.
And Ryan,
Hours they currently work.
Right. So a 35-hour-a-week employee would still be a 35-hour-a-week employee. A 40-hour-a-week employee would still be a 40-hour-a-week employee. It's just a more compressed schedule Monday through Thursday as far as this building is concerned. Lee, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say a couple things. One is that the subject has been risen at our last labor management meeting. So the union is certainly aware of the discussions. And I have met with the union president, but we have not. We wanted to make sure that we vetted it with the department heads first before we presented anything to the unions. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the 4-day work week, as you may be aware, has been utilized with the state of Connecticut for years. I mean, we initiated 4-day work programs in the early 80s. I know in Darien and Stanford, they have a 4-day work week. So there are other places as well, other municipalities that have either, gone in that direction or looking to go in that direction.
What would happen? Do we have sick days? Do people have sick days? Like I said, what would happen to sick days? Because now, if you have Monday, it's actually, would it be counted as one day or would it be counted as more days? Because it's actually more days now, because now Monday represents a day and 20%.
It'd be hour for hour. It's actual time. So if it's 8 3/4 versus 7 1/2, it would be 8 3/4.
So you would accumulate 8 3/4.
Well, so for,
The calculations on these things get down to the minute, basically.
so right now, I mean, we have for 35-hour week employee, Monday through Wednesday are 7 1/4 hour days. So if you take a day off, that's the hours that you're plugging into that hole. One of the things we're working through in this draft is, so if each day people are working more hours and then a holiday falls on a Monday, are we giving them now more hours than we were in the past for that holiday? Or is that holiday, should we call a paid day off 7 hours, in which case the remaining number of hours, the 28 hours, are made up over the 3 days you work, as opposed, so basically it's like the question is, what do you do with that last hour and a half, you know? But we actually do probably need to transition to the full
Well,
council.
we're not inventing this. Other places have done it. They have a way. I don't know.
Yeah,
if it is,
no, I
but
mean,
they-
and again, emphasis on trial, you know, there will be some issues to work through, but I think it's worth experimenting with.
I had that experience when I worked in CUNY, City University of New York, during the
Motion
summer.
to adjourn.
Second.
Oh.
All in favor.
All right, Lee, we'll see if we can get you hooked up in the other room.
Okay.